I said it without thinking, not even loudly, just enough to belong to the room. I can't wait for our vacation. It landed wrong. My father laughed first. Not a sharp laugh, not cruel in tone. Just easy, casual, like correcting a child who misunderstood something obvious. It's only for family, he said. Without you. There was a pause, half a second where the sentence could have been softened, clarified, taken back. It wasn't. My aunt smiled into her cup. My cousin let out a short laugh, then another when no one stopped him. My mother didn't laugh, but she didn't interrupt either. She just looked down, adjusting the edge of her dupatta like she'd missed something minor. I nodded, not dramatically, just once, as if I'd been given information I didn't have before. Then I stood, said I had a call, and left the room before anyone needed to decide whether I was joking too. Outside, the evening felt flatter than usual. No anger, not really, just a kind of quiet rearranging. Like something had shifted position inside me and hadn't settled yet. It should have been a small thing, a careless sentence. People say things, families say worse and move on, but it didn't move on. Over the next few days, it kept returning, not the words themselves, but the ease of it, the way no one corrected it, the way my place had been defined without discussion, as if it had always been that way and I just misunderstood. And then slowly other things began to line up beside it. The shared expenses I'd been covering without being asked anymore. The card my mother used for household withdrawals. The small transfers that never needed acknowledgement. The assumption that I was there, available, functional, useful. I didn't feel angry when I thought about it. That was the strange part. If anything, I felt clearer. By the third day, the thought had stopped looping and started settling into something practical. By the fifth, it felt obvious. That morning, I woke up earlier than usual. No urgency. I made tea, sat with my phone, and opened the banking app. Everything looked exactly the same. Numbers, permissions, access points that had been untouched for months. I didn't rush. I disabled the card. It took less than 10 seconds. A confirmation message appeared, neutral and clean. No emotion attached to it, just a system acknowledging a change. I stared at the screen for a moment, then opened the notes section attached to the account. There wasn't any real need to write anything. The action spoke for itself. Still, I typed, "Pay without me," not as a message to hurt, just to avoid questions later, to make it clear that nothing had gone wrong. Something had just changed. I put the phone down and finished my tea. The call came around noon, not immediately frantic, just confused. "Betta," my mother said, her voice careful, like she was testing the ground. "The card isn't working. I'm at the bank." I didn't answer right away. Not to create tension, just because I was finishing something else. When I did speak, my voice sounded normal to me. I know. A pause. "Is there a problem?" "No," I said. "It's been blocked." Another pause, longer this time. I could hear movement in the background, a low hum of voices, the mechanical rhythm of a place that doesn't stop for personal confusion. Block? Why? I leaned back in my chair, looking at nothing in particular. "It's not needed anymore." She didn't respond immediately. When she did, her voice had shifted, not louder, not upset, just less certain. "But I need to withdraw money. There are payments." "I'm sure you'll figure it out," I said, gently enough that it didn't sound like a dismissal. Silence stretched between us, not hostile, just unfamiliar. "Did something happen?" she asked finally. It was a reasonable question. It deserved a reasonable answer. "Yes," I said. I didn't explain further. She didn't push, not directly. The call ended without resolution, just a quiet understanding that something had moved out of place. Later that evening, my father called. He didn't circle the issue. "What is this about the card?" His tone wasn't angry. It carried something else, an expectation that this was a mistake, something that would be corrected once acknowledged. "I disabled it," I said. "Why?" There it was, direct, clean. I thought about repeating the sentence from 5 days ago, not to accuse, just to place it back into the room where it had been spoken so easily. I didn't. Instead, I said, "It didn't make sense to keep things the same." A pause. I could almost hear him trying to align that with whatever version of reality he had been operating in. "This is not how things are done," he said finally. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. "I know." Another silence. This one heavier, edged with something that hadn't been there before. Not anger. Not yet. Recognition, maybe. "You're overreacting," he said, but it sounded less certain than he probably intended. "Maybe," I replied. I didn't argue, didn't justify. There was nothing to win in that space. The conversation ended without agreement. Over the next few days, things adjusted, not loudly. No confrontations, no dramatic reconciliations, just small practical shifts. Payments handled differently. Conversations becoming slightly more formal, as if an invisible line had been drawn and no one was entirely sure how close they were allowed to stand. No one mentioned the vacation again. No one repeated the sentence. When I visited the house a week later, everything looked the same. Same furniture, same routines, same quiet hum of a place that continues regardless of what changes underneath it. But the atmosphere had altered, not colder, just aware. My mother offered me tea. My father asked about work. The conversation stayed on safe ground, measured, almost professional. At one point, my cousin started to joke about something, then stopped halfway, like he'd remembered something mid-sentence. No one filled the gap. I didn't feel victorious sitting there. There was no satisfaction in it, no sense of having corrected anything, just clarity. Whatever I had been before in that room, assumed, available, unspoken, that shape no longer fit, and no one laughed to put it back.